Hi there, crafty pals. Louise with you today. Thank you so much for checking out this scrapbook layout. I've gone a little bit bold with my background today. I'm teaming up some paper rose products, some die cuts, floral dance background paper, and the Sweet Summer Basics. So when I'm thinking about creating, I'm often, not always, but often thinking about a background. You know, I have a lot of mixed media stash, and when I say mixed media, I'm talking about mediums. So in this case today, I'm focusing on acrylic paints, but it could be anything. It could be paste, it could be watercolors, it could be, Nuvo dots. There are so many products in my stash, and I am always thinking about ways to inspire visitors who come to my channel to get scrapbook inspiration, but also to use up stash. Those mediums will eventually go hard and be absolutely useless. I have thrown out so many pots of paste in my time, so I am at the moment trying really hard to use up as many mediums as I possibly can, and that's what I focus on when I'm thinking about creating a background. Now, I haven't used acrylic paints for some time, and I felt like this background paper with its kind of grey and white elements could just be enhanced with a little bit of colour. Now, the products that I've chosen from Paper Rose have that very pretty florally elements. So in this particular case, I really like these purple and pink flowers in the die cuts pack. So have a look in the links and you'll see you can find these on the Paper Rose Studio blog. But what I want to do is team them with a bit of a bold pink and purple background. Now, anyone who has been to my channel before probably hasn't seen me use a lot of pink and purple. I am primarily a boy scrapper, but I do thoroughly enjoy the challenge of putting together something that's a little bit different and outside of my comfort zone. I find that you do tend to get quite an interesting result when you challenge yourself to create in a different way. Now, I'm just using my rubber spatula, and this is a great little tool because it kind of gives you a paintbrush effect without having to be using a paintbrush. So I'm using a combination of colors. So I'm using the darker purple, which is just the straight color out of the tube. And then I've also mixed it with some white to get the lilac. And then I've got two shades of pink. So I've got a dusty pink and then what should have been a bit more of a brighter pink, but actually was quite light. Anyway, I think this effect looks really cool. I like the paint stripes. I did just use the edges and forget about the middle, and then realized that I was planned to create this layout with the photo sort of central in the middle. And you can see that I've chosen two photos. So we recently took a trip to watch the Edinburgh Tattoo, and I loved it. It was amazing to watch, and of course I snapped a couple of photos. I felt they would work beautifully with this collection. But as this layout progressed, I really struggled. I really had a lot of difficulty working with these two large photos. I just didn't feel that they suited the background that I had created and the direction that the layout was taking. So you can see that while this starts one way, the finished product was nothing like what I had in mind. So this is how a layout will evolve sometimes. And after I've spent some time with it and realized that it's just not going to work with the idea that I had in mind, I go back to the drawing board. I think about putting some strips in the background. You know, I've fussy cut the white edges off a lot of the florals. Can I put my florals central into this cluster and build them from top to bottom? Do I put them down the outsides and leave the color poking through from the inside of that strip? The whole thing was not, it just wasn't coming together. And so what I do is I think about ways that I could potentially salvage. And in terms of salvage, using a smaller or a different photo is going to work much better in this case. So I end up popping the two photos aside, but coming back to a black and white photo still of my mum and I, where we went out for a birthday lunch. And that's because we've got the the little mother's cut apart piece that you see me using here. So I'm just going to ink that in black, helps to give it some dimension, and this is going to come together a lot better. You can see I've double mounted the photo and distressed the edges. I talked a little bit in my last video about how much I like distressed edges. And then I'm going to work with this circle in the middle and build my clusters based on that. So straight away, I'm feeling just a lot more confident with this layout. It feels more my style. I'm happy with the placement. So this is important for you to understand that layouts don't always flow in a direct manner, but sometimes you'll find you can not necessarily recover them, but just change the thinking. You know, I loved the background. The purple and pink background just came together beautifully. I loved the way it looked, but it didn't suit the photo choices that I had. So going back to the drawing board is often valuable because you can still salvage the layout and create something pretty at the end. All right, so I'm using a black and white solid patterned paper over both sides just to help anchor and give that layout a little bit of bordering. I then off camera have stuck together my clusters, and I'm going to tuck these beautiful golden frames in behind those clusters, again just for interest's sake. I did toy with the idea of maybe half tucking them in, but no, that wasn't going to work. So I'm going to just layer those florals over the top, keep my clustering to that top and bottom with my focus on that photo and mother title in the middle. That's also going to get mounted up on some cardstock just to, again, add a little bit of dimension, keep the focus on that particular area of the layout. And then before I show you these final pieces, there's a little bit of texture stamping in the background. All right, that's my share for you today. I hope that you have enjoyed that. Thank you as always for stopping by, and happy scrapping.